Hey there, you curious minds and armchair adventurers. Welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're digging into a really dynamic spot in the Midwest.
That's right, a place with a deep history, but also, very much looking forward. We're talking about Woodbury, Minnesota.
Yeah, Woodbury. Think of this as your inside look, your shortcut to getting to know this pretty interesting city.
Definitely. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump east of the Twin Cities. And it's Minnesota's eighth largest city.
Eighth largest. And still growing, right? The
Yeah.
projections show it's not slowing down anytime soon.
Not at all. Its story is very much still unfolding. Lots of future growth predicted.
So our mission today really is to get under the skin of Woodbury. We've gone through historical accounts, the old stuff and the newer digital records too, city docs, community profiles, even local news buzz.
We have. The goal is to give you a really compelling and informative overview. Lots of those aha moments, we hope.
Exactly. Those moments that make learning worthwhile. Ready to explore Woodbury? Let's dive in.
Okay, so the story starts, as many do, with the land itself. We're talking farmland way back in the 1840s.
Right. And one of the very first people to settle there was a guy named John McCaddy. Arrived in 1841, apparently.
That's the name, yeah. He was one of the absolute earliest. Then, jump forward just a bit to 1849, Minnesota becomes a U.S. territory.
Ah, okay, so that really opened the floodgates, I imagine.
It really did. You start seeing a big influx of settlers, people looking for new lives. Notably, quite a few German immigrants were part of that wave.
You have to picture that, starting fresh in a new territory.
Yeah.
Then, 1857, Minnesota becomes a state.
A huge milestone. And with statehood comes, formal organization, township governments are established. Woodbury, or rather the area that became Woodbury, was part of that.
But it wasn't called Woodbury, yeah, was it?
No, not initially. It was first known as Red Rock Township. The settlement itself was also called Red Rock.
Red Rock. And that name, the story goes, links back to the Dakota people. Something about a painting.
Exactly. Believed to be inspired by a significant painting by the Dakota. Chief Little Crow is often mentioned in connection with that original naming.
Fascinating connection to the indigenous history. But, uh-oh, plot twist, the name didn't stick.
It didn't. By 1859, they realized, oops, there's another Red Rock Township somewhere else in Minnesota.
Huh. Imagine the mail mix-ups.
Right. So they needed a new name. They landed on Woodbury.
Okay. Woodbury. Why that name?
It was chosen to honor Levi Woodbury. He was a prominent figure, a U.S. Senator, Supreme Court Justice from New Hampshire.
Any local connection?
Apparently, yes. He was friends with the very first chairman of the Woodbury Town Board. A little bit of networking there.
Interesting. A connection to the national scene right from the start. And you mentioned those German immigrants earlier. They really shaped the farming landscape in the 1870s.
Oh, absolutely. They established a lot of the farms. Initially, they were growing staples, wheat, barley, corn, potatoes. Standard stuff. Then, a bit later, around the 1900s, you see a shift. More focus on dairy farming, likely responding to market changes.
And it wasn't just crops, right? Livestock, too.
Definitely. Early residents raised sheep, hogs, cattle. It was a pretty diverse agricultural economy taking shape.
So for a long time, Woodbury was this, quintessential farming community. Hardworking, rural.
That was its identity for decades. But things started to change, didn't they?
They did. The 1960s seemed to be the big turning point.
Yeah, that's when you really see the shift. Urban development starts pushing eastward from the cities, and suddenly that farmland begins to transform.
And that sparked population growth.
Big time. Look at the numbers. 1960, the population was just over 3,000 people.
Pretty small town feel.
Very. But by 1980, it hit 10,000.
Wow, more than tripled in 20 years. That shows you the power of, suburban expansion and probably improved transportation, right?
Absolutely. A classic post-war growth pattern. In the 80s, even faster.
Faster than tripling in 20 years.
Oh, yeah. The 1980s saw a real boom. Lots of residential building, commercial development too, especially near the freeway access points. Accessibility is key.
So the freeway really fueled it. And where is the population now? You said eighth largest city.
That's right. By 2016, it was over 65,000 now. We're looking at estimates closer to 80,000. The 2020 census put it around 75,000.
And projections keep going up.
They do. Projections suggest over 82,000 by 2025, maybe hitting 88,000 by 2040. It's a significant urban center now.
And the makeup of that population has been changing quite dramatically too, hasn't it?
It really has. This is fascinating. Between 2010 and 2020, about two-thirds, 66% of the increase in population came from residents who self-identified as BIPOC.
BIPOC meaning Black, indigenous and people of color.
Correct. And by 2020, get this, 40% of Woodbury residents under the age of 18 identified as BIPOC.
40%. That's a huge demographic shift in a relatively short time. It makes Woodbury a really interesting case study in how suburbs are diversifying.
It absolutely does. It likely impacts everything, community services, schools, the cultural landscape.
And alongside this diversification, Woodbury has a reputation for being, well, pretty well educated and professional.
Very much so. It's seen as a stable professional community. Back in 2019, over 62% of adults 25 and older had a college degree.
That's high.
It is. And a lot of the workforce is in fields like medicine and high tech. Suggests a real knowledge-based economy there.
So you've got this blend, the agricultural roots, that pioneering thing, mixed with this modern, highly educated, increasingly diverse population.
It's quite a mix. And importantly, the people living there seem pretty happy with it.
Oh, yeah. How do we know?
A community survey from 2022. An impressive 94% of residents rated the quality of life as either good or excellent.
94%. That speaks volumes, doesn't it? Especially with all that growth.
It really does. Suggests they're managing the growth well, maintaining that high quality of life.
Okay, so from farms to a major city, let's talk about how it's run. The government structure. It started as a township, you said.
Yes, formally organized back in 1858. And those early town meetings, super informal.
Held in people's houses.
Exactly. Can you imagine neighbors gathering in a living room deciding the town's future? That went on until 1876 when they finally built the first actual town hall.
A real slice of Americana. But as it grew, that probably wasn't sustainable.
Not really. By 1967, the population was growing, needs were getting more complex, so the voters decided to incorporate as a village.
Okay, village incorporation. What did that change?
It brought in a more formal mayor-council system of government, better equipped to handle the increasing demands, provide more services.
Makes sense. More people, more complexity, need a more robust structure.
And right along with that came more formal planning. They established planning commissions, park commissions.
Thinking ahead.
Exactly. And crucially, 1967 was also when they created the city's first comprehensive land use plan. That was really forward-thinking, trying to guide all the development that was happening.
Smart move. Control the growth, rather than just react to it. Did the physical government buildings keep pace?
They did. By 1975, they needed more space, more capacity, so a new, larger city hall was built. That reflected the expanding city services.
And the structure today? Still mayor-council?
Yes. A mayor and 4 council members. They're all elected at large, meaning citywide, not by district.
And the terms are staggered.
4-year staggered terms, yeah. That helps provide some continuity, avoids having the entire council turn over at once.
Good system. So for listeners, maybe residents or visitors, how do they interact with the city government? Where do they find information?
Okay, practical stuff. The city hall address is 8301 Valley Creek Road. Phone number is 651-714-350. But honestly, the website is probably the best starting point.
What can you find online?
Pretty much everything. Agendas, minutes from meetings, info on all the departments, advisory commissions. You can even make some payments online.
And emergency alerts.
They use the Coda Red system that's done in partnership with Washington County, so residents can sign up for those important notifications.
Good to know. And you mentioned a change in leadership is coming up.
Yes, that's right. The current city administrator is retiring in June of 2025. So the city's in the process right now of finding a new person for that key role.
A big transition for the city administration. Okay, let's shift gears to schools. Education is always huge. And Woodbury's educational roots go way back too, right? Even before it was officially Woodbury.
They absolutely do. The very first school actually opened in 1855. That was before the township was even formally organized.
Where was it?
It was just in a small house owned by a resident named William Middleton. And even before that, back in 1852, there was a church school held in that same house. Shows how early on education was valued.
Amazing. That pioneer commitment to learning. And then came the classic one-room schoolhouses.
Yep. Between 1852 and 1868, 7 of them popped up across the area.
7. What were they like?
Picture it. 1 room, 1 teacher, maybe 35 kids, all 8 grades learning together. But sources say the teaching was often excellent.
Incredible. And some kids even went on to college from there.
Some did, yeah.
Yeah.
Went on to St. Paul College. Speaks well of those early schools.
Definitely. But like everything else, education had to evolve as the area grew. What happened in the mid-20th century?
The 1950s saw big changes. Consolidation was the name of the game, driven mostly by state law trying to make districts more efficient.
So the one-room schools faded out.
Pretty much. Most of Woodbury's schools became part of the new, bigger South Washington County School District 833.
Okay, District 833. Is all of Woodbury in that district?
Mostly, but not entirely. Because of how the city boundaries lie, some parts are actually served by the North St. Paul Maplewood Oakdale District, which is 622, and some by Stillwater, District 834.
Huh, interesting. So 3 different districts serve parts of the city?
A bit unusual, yeah. Depends on your address.
And when did Woodbury get its own high school? That must have been a big deal.
Huge deal. That came with the consolidation era. Woodbury High School opened its doors for the 1974-75 school year. Finally, a dedicated high school for the community.
A real milestone.
Yeah.
And investment in schools continues today, I hear.
It does. Just very recently, May 6th of this year, 2025, they had a groundbreaking ceremony.
For what?
A new building for the Math and Science Academy. It'll be a 6th through 12th grade facility located on Bailey Road. Shows they're still investing in diverse educational options.
That's great to see. Catering to different interests and needs. And that main district, South Washington County, is pretty large now.
Oh, yeah. It's the 6th largest school district in the entire state of Minnesota now. Serves a huge number of students, including most of Woodbury's.
Clearly, education is a cornerstone.
Oh.
Let's talk about another thing. Woodbury is known for parks and recreation. They really shine there, don't they?
They absolutely do. It's a big part of the city's identity and that high quality of life rating we mentioned.
What makes it stand out?
Well, for starters, those residential neighborhoods are really attractive, and they're woven together by this incredible trail system, over 170 miles of multi-use trail.
170 miles.
Seriously, it's massive. Great for walking, biking, just connecting different parts of the city and getting people outdoors.
That's amazing. And plenty of green space, too.
Loads of it, around 3,500 acres of dedicated parkland. Plus, the city has 8 small lakes within its borders, and most of those have public parks and pathways around them.
So nature is really accessible.
Yeah.
Any specific parks or facilities that are like the crown jewels?
Several stand out. For a real nature escape, there's the Tamarack Nature Preserve. Carver Lake Park and Ojibwe Park are very popular for general recreation, picnics, that sort of thing.
What about sports?
Big time. There's the public Eagle Valley Golf Course, and then there's the M Health Fairview Sports Center. That place is huge.
What's there?
Over 30 athletic fields, an indoor field house, 2 indoor ice sheets, even an outdoor refrigerated rink for winter, plus a splash pad and a really great inclusive playground called Madison's Place.
Madison's Place. Inclusive meaning.
Designed so kids of all abilities can play together. It's fantastic. Oh, and Central Park right next to the library is a nice central gathering spot, too.
Sounds incredibly well equipped.
Yeah.
Do people actually use all this stuff? Is the community active?
Oh, definitely. Very engaged citizenry. They turn out for the big community events. Woodbury Days is the main one.
When's that?
Late August, usually held in Ojibwe Park. It's got everything: parade, carnival, live music, fireworks, and the Taste of Woodbury, where local restaurants show off.
Classic summer festival vibe.
Totally. And they have a big 4th of July celebration, too. These events really build that community feeling.
And people get involved in other ways, too, like clubs and organizations.
Yeah, very active, lots of neighborhood groups, plus civic organizations like the Woodbury Community Foundation, Rotary, the Lions Club. They all contribute a lot.
Speaking of the Lions Club, didn't they just have their big garage sale?
They did. Just this past weekend, May 8th to 10th, it was their 48th annual citywide garage sale, a real Woodbury tradition.
48 years. Wow. And the city itself offers programs too, right? Through the rec department?
Absolutely. The recreation department runs stuff year-round for all ages. Art classes, sports leagues, STEM programs for kids, social activities for seniors. You name it.
Something for everyone, sounds like.
Pretty much. They really focus on providing opportunities for people to be active and engaged.
It's clear they prioritize quality of life. Now, with such a rich history, how does Woodbury make sure that past isn't forgotten? Is there a historical society?
There is, and they do great work. The Woodbury Heritage Society, founded back in 1983.
And their mission is?
To preserve and document the city's history, basically, and also to help residents connect with and learn about those early years. It's a nonprofit group.
What kind of things do they collect and preserve?
All sorts of artifacts. They have a huge photo collection, over 3,500 images they're working on digitizing. Old letters, historical documents,
Like what kind of documents?
really interesting stuff like justice dockets from 1867 kept by that early settler, William Middleton. Also textiles, clothes, household items, things that show what life was like.
Where can people see this stuff?
A lot of it is displayed at the Woodbury Heritage House. That's their base. They also have an heirloom garden there.
Heirloom garden.
Yeah, it reflects the gardening traditions of the early European settlers, plants they would have grown. It's a nice touch, a living history element.
That's really cool. How else do they share the history? Do they offer programs?
They do. Guided tours of the Heritage House, sometimes historical tours of other sites like Valley Creek Park. They have a speaker series featuring talks on local history.
Advocates.
They do free open houses and specific tours for school groups and scouts, making sure the next generation learns the stories. They also have something called Explore Woodbury, which sounds like it might be tours or programs to encourage discovery.
It's great they're so active, and they make a good point about preserving even more recent history, right?
Absolutely. They encourage families, when they're cleaning out a relative's house, to think twice before tossing things. Even items from the last few decades can be important pieces of the community's story.
Good reminder for all of us. Okay, let's shift to some fun facts or maybe surprising connections. I heard something about Woodbury and soccer.
Ah, yes. Minnesota United FC, the Loons. Woodbury has quite a connection.
Really? How so?
Several players have come from Woodbury, people on the front office staff too. And one of the team's co-owners, Tim Thone, is actually a Woodbury High School grad.
Wow, that's a strong local tie to the pro team.
It is. So much so that a former mayor, Mary Giuliani Stevens, actually proclaimed October 21st as Woodbury Soccer Day a few years back.
That's cool. Is soccer generally popular there?
Hugely popular. The numbers are pretty impressive. Back in 2017, they had over 900 kids playing competitive soccer on like 60-plus teams, plus another 1,200 playing recreational soccer.
Goodness, that's a lot of soccer, a real hotbed for the sport.
Seems like it. It's definitely a big part of the community fabric.
Anything else interesting happening on the maybe business or retail side?
Well, for the golfers out there, this is big news. A PGA Tour Superstore is opening soon.
When and where?
It's set to open in Woodbury on June 14th. That'll definitely be a major draw for golf fans in the whole area.
Big news for golfers indeed. Now, switching to something a bit more serious, I saw a report about a fire near City Hall very recently.
Unfortunately, yes. Reports called it a terrifying fire near City Hall just last night, May 9th. Details were still emerging when we were prepping.
Oh, that's concerning. Hopefully everyone was okay.
Yes, definitely hoping for the best there, something the community will be watching closely.
Okay, let's look ahead a bit. Ongoing developments. I know there's a massive water project happening.
Yes, that's a really important one. A major water treatment plant upgrade and a lot of related pipeline work.
Why is that so crucial?
It's about ensuring safe, reliable drinking water for the long haul, especially with the growing population. And specifically, it's positioning Woodbury as a leader in treating PFAS.
PFAS, those forever chemicals everyone's talking about.
Exactly. They're tackling that head on, which is really significant for public health.
Vital work. But big projects mean disruption, I assume.
There will be, yes. Construction impacts are expected in different areas as they lay the new pipelines. Places like Pioneer Drive, Interlaken Parkway, Valley Creek Road, Bailey Road, Dale Road.
So people should expect some delays or detours in those areas.
Probably, for a while. But the city's set up resources. There's a hotline, 651-448-7127, and an email address, watertreatment@woodburyM.gov, specifically for questions about this project.
Good that they're communicating proactively. Anything else coming up soon that folks should know about?
Well, looking back just a bit, the State of the City address was back on April 3rd. There was a meeting about road repairs on April 10th. And happening right now, this Saturday, May 10th, is the Community XPO.
Where's the Exco?
At Woodbury High School. It's a great chance for residents to connect with local businesses, community groups, that sort of thing.
Always something going on, it seems. This has been a really thorough look at Woodbury.
It really feels like we've journeyed through its story, doesn't it? From those very first farms and settlers.
Right, through that incredible growth and transformation into the major city it is today.
We touched on its government, the schools, those amazing parks and trails contributing to the quality of life.
And the efforts to keep its history alive through the Heritage Society. Plus those interesting tidbits like the soccer connection and current projects.
It paints a picture of a really vibrant place, wouldn't you say? Deep roots, but very much evolving.
Definitely more than just a bedroom community. It has its own distinct identity, shaped by its past, but definitely focused on the future. So as we wrap up, what's a final thought for our listeners to chew on?
Hmm. I think this deep dive into Woodbury really drives home how a place's history isn't just something in a book. It's alive. It shapes the present, you know. The decisions made by settlers, the waves of newcomers, the planning choices during growth spurts.
It all feeds into what the city is like right now.
Exactly. You can see the threads of the past woven into the Woodbury of today. Understanding that history really helps you appreciate why the community is the way it is and maybe even where it's headed.
It makes you think about the story behind any town or city you visit or live in. They all have these layers.
They really do. And maybe, if you're curious now, you might even go check out Woodbury yourself. Walk some trails, visit a park.
Or dig deeper online. The Heritage Society website, the city's site.
For sure. There's always more to uncover. It's a great example of a community actively writing its next chapter while still being very connected to its beginnings.